Welcome back, Mr. Goodberry. The First Star Logistics studio is fully equipped and ready to record.
Welcome back to Bengals on the Brain, presented by First Star Logistics. I'm your host, Joe Goodberry, and I am in Cincinnati, Ohio at the First Star headquarters in the First Star studios, because we are finally at the end of our series, the top 100 greatest Bengals of all time. We're in the top 5. This is it. This is the final episode. These are the 5 greatest players to ever put on those stripes, and 4 of them are already in the Ring of Honor. And that may be confusing because one of them just probably isn't eligible yet, and we'll get to them. But to start us off on this at number 5, and these are all, every single one down the line are going to be, if you could add any of these guys to the roster right now, you would make this team better, other than the quarterbacks, right? Maybe, potentially. We got 2 quarterbacks on this list, and that's where we're starting it off. We've got 2 league MVPs. That's rarefied air, right? 2 league MVPs that brought this team to a Super Bowl in the same year, and we're close, right? They're within a few plays of winning it. This first one here, a lefty, 2nd-round pick, blonde hair, cool nickname. My mom loved him. I'm sure a lot of your other moms loved him as well. It's Boomer Esiason at number 5. That lefty wearing number 7 is Norman Julius Esiason. Boomer Esiason, 88 league MVP, 1 Super Bowl appearance, 10 years in Cincinnati, including a comeback in 97. He's our 2nd greatest quarterback of all time.
In 1984, Sam Wyche's first season as head coach in Cincinnati, Boomer Esiason was drafted by the Bengals in the 2nd round. He arrived with a big arm and a big ego.
I was very upset that I was not a first-round draft pick, and when I think back to that time, I wonder what happened. I think partly my personality was to blame. I was not afraid to say what was on my mind.
What kind of call is that?
I always felt like when I played football that I wanted to be who I was as a person, that I did not want to be some cookie-cutter quarterback.
Should have passed it. Well, except we've been blowing them out running.
I always thought of Sam and me as a bucking bronco with a guy that's trying to tame him.
Oh, so he was a bucking bronco, okay.
10, 51 seconds, 3:51, I should say, remaining here in the half. And Esiason with a lot of time going long. Brown is open. He's got it, and he is gone.
The former Maryland Terp would appear in 139 games for the Bengals over a 10-year span, including the playoffs, throwing for 27,149 yards and 187 touchdowns through the air.
Now watch Burrows come in here. He just misjudges it. He was beat. He should have made the tackle on the play at least.
Brooks again comes in motion. And they're back to throw as the blitz is on. Goes long, intended for Collinsworth. He has it down to the 20, touchdown! Chris Collinsworth just ran right past Ron Fellows.
The blonde quarterback would be a fan favorite, a leader of the team, and orchestrate one of the most potent offenses the league has ever seen in 1988.
Arms fully extended as far as he could reach.
From the first game, it was clear that 1988 would be a season of fantastic finishes. One year earlier, Boomer Esiason was the one making fun of Sam Wyche. Now, quarterback and coach were having fun.
Very nice. Very nice. Touchdown!
The magician, and perhaps the best play-action quarterback ever, were playing now you see it, now you don't, with defenses.
Oh, did that fake out that secondary completely?
To Wyche, football was a beautiful game, and to succeed at it, he needed a quarterback with a beautiful mind.
This guy thinks ahead. He's always anticipating what's coming next. He's a star. I wasn't going to call him that. If I don't call him that now, then people are going to think I'm stupid again.
He would put a lot on my plate. He would expect a lot from me.
Forward!
Take my play. Change the play.
He would never let me wear a wristband on my arm to cheat.
And really what they should give you, they should have a cheat sheet for you. They should, because this is not a normal offense.
And he would always grill me mentally every day.
What are you expecting if they bump each other? Bump, bump. What coverage?
Like that guy to go back, cover 3.
Shoe.
58G release.
All right. Tree.
647 bend in. I think I passed my oral exam today.
Running backs now, Kennebrew and Brooks, and Boomer's going to go back and throw. Now looking, now he's flushed out, rolling out to his left. Nobody to throw it to, and now he throws it far downfield. There's Holman, he has it at the 20, down to the 10-5, touchdown! A broken play.
Eagles lead by 3, trying to hold on. From the behind, there's a pass, touchdown to McGee! And Esiason, Dave, has thrown 7 touchdown passes in 2 games.
Esiason rolls to his left. Blindside shot. Seth Joyner hits him right in the chops.
Boomer goes back to throw. Men are coming late. Looks right down the middle. There's Eddie Brown. He has it at the 35 to the 30. He may go 10-5. Touchdown.
If they really think they're going to do anything in the playoffs, they have to start playing better than they have the last 2 weeks.
Stanley Wilson. A fake was to Wilson. And Eddie Brown. He fooled everybody. Touchdown Cincinnati. He fooled us.
And early in 1988, it was virtually unstoppable. In the Bengals' 6-0 start, the former bucking Bronco threw 15 touchdown passes.
Once he finally got me refined in the way he wanted me, we took Bill Walsh's 49er West Coast, very cerebral system to another level of thinking. And it was remarkable that we could all get together on the same page.
Was the NFL's MVP.
Weirdest thing happened to me. I was driving into my neighborhood, must have been 50 houses, had little black and orange Boomer signs after I was named MVP. All these people, 1 year later, wanted to show support for me. Probably one of the proudest days of my entire life as a human being and as a football player, because it really meant a lot to me.
Let's take a look at the blonde bombshell, Boomer Esiason. The dude could get the ball deep, and we're going to take a look at how he got it done. Boomer Esiason right here. Get him out of pocket, flush him out of pocket, flush him to his right. Left-handed quarterback, he has to square himself up, drops the arm slot down a little bit, hits Stanford Jennings for a touchdown against the Raiders. Big play. He always destroyed the Houston Oilers, then Houston Oilers. Look at the ball placement here to Dunn. Puts it right over the safety, outside of the corner. Dunn's happy about that one. Great ball placement by Boomer Esiason. Boomer. Dropping back, always looking down the field. He's not looking to check anything down. He wants to go for the throat. Out of pocket again. ML Harris, take it deep, ML. Take it deep. Forget the short stuff. Over the top he goes, over the safety. Touchdown. Boomer Esiason, his yards per attempt were extraordinary because he was always trying to hit the big play and then work his way back toward the line of scrimmage if the big play wasn't available. Here again. Throw back across the football field to Darnay Scott to his right. Wide open. Everybody bid on the run play. Darnay Scott, touchdown bomb. Boomer Esiason was the maestro. He had defenses on a string.
The 23.
No huddle or not, the Bills were no match for the Bengals.
Looks to the end zone, lobs it off in a flat, touchdown!
I always think back to the great memories that our team had, and the way that we did it was really unique in nature. We had a unique coach, we had great personalities on our team, and where we came from to where we ascended to is the most unpredictable of seasons that any team has ever had in the history of the league.
When I think of the 1988 Super Bowl run and that team, I think of Boomer Esiason, not just because he was the MVP and the quarterback. I think he embodied the turnaround that team had from the middling 80s and 87 to what they became in 88. And they were still pretty good for the next few years. And Boomer Esiason was very, very good at the time. Just a lefty with a cannon of an arm, still the highest yards per attempt of the top quarterbacks in Bengals history. Play actions, bootlegs, and bombs down the field. That's how that offense won. And it was a very exciting brand of football. But I also think of the 97 comeback and the spark and hope that brought with it. And then his voice as a Bengals supporter since then.
back in 2003, we had a guy by the name of Carson Palmer. You heard of that name?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was the first overall pick, and he went to the Bengals. So I want to welcome you from one Bengal to the next Bengal. Your helmet for next year. And
88 NFL MVP, the NFL 1995 Man of the Year, Super Bowl 23 starting quarterback, the leader of the pack, number 7, Boomer Esiason.
When I was a kid, I was convinced Boomer Esiason was the best quarterback in NFL history and in Bengals history. That's just kind of how it was in my household. And I grew up and became much more of a wider NFL fan and, learned about the league and the history. But still, there's always a part of my childhood where I was, man, Boomer Esiason, it doesn't get any better than that. And it was great to see him get inducted into the Ring of Honor. I was there for that game. And, I do think in different circumstances, had he have stayed in Cincinnati maybe the whole time, he could be knocking on the door of the Hall of Fame and maybe would have helped the team avoid the slump in the 90s had he have stayed there. But number 5 in the greatest Bengals of all time, and we're talking about a guy who got them to a Super Bowl, was a league MVP, which is the hardest thing to do, right? And he was the 95 Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year. Now it's called Walter Payton, of course. That is probably a top 5 award you can get as the type of person you are. And that didn't just happen when he went to the Jets. That's who he always was. So he was awarded for that. Typically, it's a legacy thing. We spoke about this when Andrew Whitworth was in the top 10 as well, that this didn't change when they went to new teams. And maybe it was highlighted elsewhere. But, I think you can take a part of that's who that guy was. So Boomer Esiason, number 5 here, is the greatest Bengal of all time. Going on to number 4 is a guy that I have talked about extensively in his case for the Hall of Fame. And I think he's going to make the Hall of Fame. If it's not this year, next year, we're knocking on the door. And he probably is the 3rd Bengal elected into the Hall of Fame. And I'm excited for that. And the day is coming. And I feel like that day is coming. And I don't need to say much about it. I've said so much about it. I've made content here on the First Star channel, on YouTube. I've done it on Twitter. And I will continue to fight that campaign. But since he was inducted into the Bengals Ring of Honor, and the Bengals have done so much great content, and you'll see some of my stuff mixed in here as well, and some of the voices of people that I have helped navigate this project with. Let them speak and let them take care of it. And I think he's going to be our next Hall of Famer. Coming at number 4, the greatest Bengals of all time, is offensive tackle Willie Anderson.
Hey, one heartbeat. That's how we're going to beat them, by being one together. We be one together. They cannot stop us. They can't score on us, defense. Once the teams beat as teams, win on 3. We're going to win together. We win together. Win on 3. 1, 2, 3. Win.
Willie Anderson displayed the same qualities during a Bengals tenure that stretched across 2 centuries and 2 stadiums, with 9 starting quarterbacks and 4 head coaches.
Oh my God, I met him at the Combine. He was 20 years old, one of the youngest players to ever come out of the draft.
Mike Brown been telling everybody throughout the process that that's the guy we want, that's the guy we want. So I was hoping that I would be a top 10 pick. I knew the Bengals had the 10th pick, and I didn't want to be a junior and fall below the 10th pick. To me, that would have been a fail. I could have came back the next year and been higher.
I did a drill with him where I had him just put his arms out, and I grabbed his arms and tried to push him down as hard as I could. And I could have done pull-ups on his arms. He was that strong.
He was a natural. He played for us for 12 years, and he went to the Pro Bowl 4 times. He was just the top performer for us for a long time.
Willie was good from the beginning. You know, there's been a lot of good offensive tackles your rookie year give up 5 or 6 sacks. You know what I mean? Willie never did that.
While Anderson blocked for Corey Dillon's NFL rookie record 246 yards late in the old century in 1997, he helped pave Dillon's way to the NFL record of 278 yards in the first year of the new one in 2000. He then helped bring the club's first AFC North title to Cincinnati in 2005, while aiding quarterback Carson Palmer, wide receiver Chad Johnson, and running back Rudy Johnson in setting team season records for passing efficiency, receiving yards, and rushing yards.
They can't stop it in the middle, man. Every time we keep running pound in the middle, they can't stop it down there.
Willie was certainly the best run blocking tackle in football. So he could just mash them and maul them and knock them off the ball with explosiveness and athleticism.
You and Willie just knocked the out of that guy. You know what I mean? We should just wear him over this play.
Our number one play was called 16 Chase. The other name was 16 Willie. And they were both, hey, Corey, just go follow Willie.
We got to do it, man. It ain't over yet. This is a new team, man. There's a lot of football left. What we going to give up in our personal lives, man? What we going to do to get better, to get to the point we got to get to, man? Because we got to get there. I want to get there. Everybody want to get there.
Through the transitions, his huge presence on the right side was just as big in a locker room where he presided as a franchise statesman. Only Pro Football Hall of Famer Anthony Munoz played more games on the Bengals offensive line.
Let's take this win home. All it counts is a win. 1, 2, 3, win.
I came here at 20 years old. When they drafted me, I was 20, turned 21 during that summer. I remember reading my rookie card, and it said the Bengals are hoping that he's a stalwart for 10 plus years. I ended up playing 12 years here, my 13 years, so I'm happy to live up to my rookie card standards.
Ring of Honor inductees. First up, the man in the trenches, the best right tackle in the history of the franchise, Willie Anderson. Starts with his feet, size 18 triple E, but he had sweet feet. He could move those feet now, and then he'd snap those hips. He had that powerful core. Then when he got those big muckers on you, those hands on you and controlled you, it was over. Big Willie was as dominant a right tackle as there was of his era, and equally dominant in pass protection and run blocking. Some guys are good run blockers but can't pass pro, and vice versa. Willie could do it all.
In between Jeff Hobson, Dave Lapham, and Paul Alexander, I'll take a minute to speak on it. Willie Anderson was dominant. Strength, size, technique, the low, wide hands, the independent hands you see throughout the league today. He and Paul Alexander perfected that, and he was a mauling, run blocking right tackle. But because of that technique, because he was more nimble than expected, he was a truly dominant pass protector as well, and had some of his best games against the best opponents he ever faced. When going through the history and looking at the last 40 years of NFL offensive line play and how the talent shifted to the left side, it was tough for him to make All-Pro and Pro Bowl teams for the Bengals, yet he did it at a rate that right tackles have never done before and since in modern football history. Playing 12 years in Cincinnati and appearing in 182 games makes Willie Anderson one of the longest tenured Bengals of all time. Pedigree, durability, high-end, excellent play. He's worthy of a top 5 spot on this list.
Willie Anderson was the man. In the running game, nobody was better. Look at the lane he made for Corey Dillon. Corey Dillon loved Willie Anderson. And they would load the box with 7, 8 players. Corey Dillon still set records running the football. Here comes Big Willie around the horn. That's a big man in front of Corey Dillon. Look at that block against the Pittsburgh Steelers, hooking that linebacker. That's a bad day for that linebacker when you see Big 71 coming around the corner.
Out by Cowher. Eric sleeping with Bieniemy gets the toss. Willie Anderson's going to make a big block, and Bieniemy's gone. Touchdown, Bengals.
Yeah, and let's take a look at that block again. Look at Willie Anderson on Randy Fuller right there. Pancakes him.
Points. 3rd down and 9. Had only 1 punt in this game. In front of the Bengals, Chad Johnson is open, and he...
Studious and savage, Anderson combined a massive body with ballet feet and a savant's instincts to confound the greatest defensive ends.
I saw the PFF stat in the last 20 years. He's got the highest graded pass blocking grade of any tackle to play the game. He could diagnose how to block people like no one I've ever seen before. He could watch a certain number of plays. He could tell by a guy's stance. He could tell by the way he initially moves exactly what that guy could do and how he could block him.
I wanted to add a bunch of highlights from one game to show the type of high-end play he would often provide in a singular performance. And this against the Cleveland Browns, I think, signified or showed that the best. There's multiple plays here where it's just him holding up in pass protection for longer than expected or blowing up run lanes and being the lead blocker for touchdowns and big runs. And like many of the clips and accolades and highlights that you're going to get from Willie Anderson, these happened later in his career. He was even better earlier. While I think we're going to remember Willie Anderson for the 05 era Bengals, where they got back on the map and got back to the playoffs, and Marvin Lewis and how that team was so good, that offensive line was fantastic. Many of those guys made this top 100 list. When you see Willie Anderson and focus on him, you realize he and Chad Johnson, the two highest ranking Bengals on this series, were the two best players on the team and just absolutely dominant. Play in, play out, game in, game out. But then you go back to the 90s and you see these plays and you see them happen and you just wish they were better teams around he and Corey Dillon, because it would have highlighted these guys so much.
He was famous for blocking the guys no one could block. It's kind of funny, they say, oh, you know, I don't know if he's a Hall of Fame player because he played right tackle instead of left tackle. Well, guess what? Half the rushers in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Against Reggie White, and he was one of my first childhood idols. I knew then, like, oh, if he can't beat me, like, there's no one in this league gonna beat me. And I kind of went on that kind of run, 99 to 01, no sacks, one pressure. 3 great years that no one didn't notice at the time, that they know now.
From 2004 to 2006, Anderson became the only right tackle in the last 40 years to be named All-Pro 3 straight seasons. But Anderson's legacy is just as immense in the run game. His offensive lines produced the top 5 rushing seasons in Bengals history.
A year or two ago, he and Anthony Munoz were on the field together helping to show our young offensive linemen how to set, how to pass block, how to move. We had these new young players and they were trying hard, but Willie and Anthony, you would have picked them.
With Willie Anderson in the trenches and working against Michael Strahan, a Hall of Famer himself. Michael Strahan says that Willie Anderson deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Good enough for me. Case closed. Willie Anderson, not only Ring of Honor, Hall of Famer.
I think Willie Anderson has a great shot at getting into the Hall of Fame. You don't knock on the door and be a finalist this many times and typically not get in. Those guys tend to get in, whether that's after 3, 4, 5 years, but at some point they do get there. So I think the voters recognize it. I think the pressure is mounting. I think we're going to see Willie in the Hall of Fame, which is awesome because that would make the 3rd Hall of Famer in Bengals history, depending on how you count things and count guys like Charlie Joyner and Terrell Owens, right, for the times they spent with the team. But, you know, for guys that are core Bengals players, it would be the 3rd. And I think we can end up with a few. I said this on the top, when we got to the top 10, I said I thought Lamar Parrish deserves to be in. Corey Dillon at 14 on our list, but he deserves, in my opinion, to go in. But a large chunk of that is what he did with the Patriots as well, and showed what he could have done with a great franchise and what his career may have looked like. And then I think we get to, obviously Ken Riley's already in, but you get to Andrew Whitworth. I think he gets in. And so when you get to this list and you say, well, now who's left, Joe, if you're keeping track? Number 3, while I think Willie gets in, I think the player remaining here has the strongest case of any player. And I think he's almost a lock to get in. And I believe that whenever you have 8 Pro Bowls, 3 All-Pro seasons, you're part of a all-decade team, a Hall of Fame all-decade team, which he was, 2010 all-decade team. When you get to that point, you're a lock to make the Hall of Fame. There's like one example, but those guys eventually all get in at some point if you have those type of accolades. There's only a few players in Bengals history that were widely regarded as one of the best players at their position for their entire time and received all of the accolades. Like we say this about Willie Anderson, right? Like we know he's the best right tackle of that generation. But it wasn't always known and it wasn't always agreed upon. I think it's agreed upon now. But I think the players I'm thinking about are like Chad Johnson. The whole league knew who he was. The whole league agreed he was the top 3 receiver in the league. Anthony Munoz. The whole league agreed. The whole league knew how good he was, and we know where he's going to rank for us on this list. And then number 3 here, and the 100 greatest Bengals, is Geno Atkins. And everyone agreed that he was a top 3 defensive tackle in the league throughout his entire career. And you're going to see it in the clips, and you're going to see it in the top 100 series clips that I pulled from. It was widely accepted that he was great. and fantastic. And that's how you get to 8 Pro Bowls, right? There were no seasons where we had to go, man, you guys missed Geno Atkins this year. He was great, and you missed him. You didn't vote for a Pro Bowl. There was never a snub for Atkins. It was always accepted that he was fantastic. And it's up to us to not to let people forget, because Geno doesn't speak for himself, and he will retire quietly into the night. And as Bengals fans, we need to remember Geno Atkins.
You had a mini version of Incredible Hulk, it would be Geno. He has the biggest freaking calf muscles in the world. And I mean, he's quick as a hiccup.
Geno Atkins is the top D tackle to me. He's a destroyer.
Geno Atkins can make a QB crumble without even touching him. He can chase down the fastest quarterbacks.
And Geno is a game plan wrecker.
Geno has that suddenness about him that when that ball snap, it comes on you so fast, it's really hard for guards to block him.
Mariota in trouble and sacked by Geno Atkins.
Yeah. When you can get a 3 technique that can pressure the middle of the pocket, quarterbacks hate pressure in their face, and Geno's one of the best at it.
He's a great 3 technique. He's stout, he's physical, he gets off blocks, he clogs up run lanes. Very disruptive all over the place.
Hands it off. McCoy tackled for a loss. Geno Atkins.
He consistently beats every guy that's lined up in front of him.
Shotgun snap. Watson back to throw. In trouble and hammered by Geno Atkins.
Look at the delay right here by Geno Atkins. Wow.
He's got all the pass rush moves and then can bull you and get to your quarterback with ease.
Boy, Geno Atkins came on the bull rush that time.
Geno's big thing is power, and few guys can walk offensive linemen back the way he can.
Geno Atkins takes the guard right into the lap of Case Keenum.
You know, the thing about Geno is he's short. He's like 6'1", so you hit him, and he's underneath your pads already. He plays with leverage, and I think that's what makes him so great, really.
So not only is he stronger than you, he's getting up underneath you. That's some bad combinations for offensive linemen.
He has good technique. He keeps his hands inside. And anytime you have pad leverage and hands inside, that combination can be unstoppable.
One heck of a move by Geno Atkins. Watch how he uses his hands, turn the corner, and then makes that play on a line of scrimmage.
You might as well go ahead and put 2 on him. Because, I mean, he's going to take up 2 guys regardless. Because he's that good of a football player, and he demands that much respect.
Geno Atkins, he is ruining this game.
He's powerful for his size, man, and that's what most people don't understand. He's a force to reckon, man. He's very good.
You'd think a guy that small in the trenches would be easy to engulf and to stop his momentum, but, playing him in London, I realized how strong he is. Like, it's literally unreal. It felt like I was trying to stop a truck.
Pound for pound, maybe the best 3 technique in the league. He got the 1 sack of the game against us.
In 2016, Geno Atkins had more sacks than fellow top 100 mainstays Aaron Donald, Gerald McCoy, and Ndamukong Suh.
When we played the Eagles, he took the A-gap. We didn't have a blitz or nothing on. He just took it. And the coach was like, why did you? He said, I knew it was pass. And I knew they were sliding to me. So that shows that he pays attention to details and watch film. And he got back there and got pressure on Wentz. He felt that hit.
People start to say, you know what, who's the guy that we have to take away? You better take away 97.
Geno Atkins in the building. Geno Atkins in the building.
You turn on the film, he's blowing guys off the ball all day.
Flacco back to throw. In trouble. In sack. Geno Atkins.
It doesn't matter which clip you turn on to. Anytime he has a rush, he's knocking his guy back.
Geno Atkins pushes him right back.
But with Geno, man, if you want to run the ball his side, good luck. Because he's going to get underneath your guard and penetrate. And if you want to pass this way, you better hope you have help. Either outside or inside with the center, because he's going to beat you.
Geno Atkins was making life miserable for Tannehill.
Geno's a tremendous inside rusher. You know when you're playing against him, leverage and the ability to get down there with them is important.
First down for the Raiders on their own 35, opening possession of the ball.
The top play in Geno Atkins' career for Bengals fans. Welcome back, Carson Palmer, early in the game, setting the tone. The 4th-round pick out of Georgia is now 3rd on the Bengals' all-time sack list with 75.5. The next defensive tackle on our list, Tim Krumrie, number 15 on the greatest Bengals, has 34.5. So Geno Atkins has more than double.
Say, Geno's one of those guys that you can get in front of and feel like you've got the block handled, but he's so powerful, he's just going to keep moving you backwards.
He's in trouble. He'll be sacked. Back at the 20-yard line.
Geno just overpowering.
I just remember getting bull rushed a lot, and you got to sit on that bull rush and you got to fight it as much as you can. He's a pretty relentless pass rusher. He picks and chooses when he goes, but when he wants to come, he's one of the toughest bull rushers in the league.
He's bullying you. He's running smack into you.
Derek Carr drops back to pass. In trouble. Geno Atkins.
Boy, he just takes him and walks him straight back to the quarterback, and Derek Carr can feel him coming.
And then the one time you lean on him, he tosses you to the side and goes around you.
This guy's the leverage king. He plays with low pad level. He's so strong and he's quick. And if you don't have great technique, great feet, great hands, you'll never block him.
He's got rare strength and power for a guy of his stature.
Geno's like a freakish athlete.
He's not a heavy guy, not very tall. Being that smaller stature and you're trying to lean on a guy who feels that heavy, and then all of a sudden he's able to just dip right under you or move around you.
Oh, Geno Atkins hammers Tannehill.
Geno's so vertically challenged.
The diminutive Geno Atkins had 6 sacks in the first 5 games last year and reached double digits for the 3rd time.
The second game of the year against the Ravens, I remember him kind of chasing down Joe Flacco and getting the sack.
Pressure coming from his blind side. Begins scrambling to the left. Being chased by Geno Atkins, who makes the sack.
He gets up and he doesn't even celebrate or anything, he just smiles and looks at you. If he ain't getting double teamed, and shoot, even sometimes when he's getting double teamed, he can get back there in less than a second. Every time he's in the backfield, it's just crazy. It's like he doesn't really do a lot of finesse moves. It's just he gets hands-on and he usually rips off pretty easily.
Geno Atkins single-handedly destroying the Oakland Raiders.
Honestly, I have no clue what he does so special, but it's like he can't be blocked.
What a career for Geno Atkins. And I've got a thread on Twitter that's got every career sack he's ever had. And I watched it before doing this, and it is long. It's a long thread. It's an impressive thread. The guy was strong, quick, athletic, had multiple moves to beat you with. He was just fantastic. And this doesn't even include, because a lot of those were sacks. Sacks are the big thing, but he was such a dominant run defender because he was a penetrator that just caused chaos and disruption across the front. You tried to run wide stuff on him, good luck asking your center or guards to reach block him. It was a tall task for any offensive lineman because he was so quick off the snap with that natural leverage and power, no chance of stopping him. And I think some people are going to be like, wow, now that I think of his career, he was that great. This is going to be a drum I bang for a long time. He was the best defender in Bengals history, and I think he's going to make the Hall of Fame pretty easily. I shouldn't say that. I don't want to jinx him, but I think he's going to make the Hall of Fame in our lifetime. And I can't wait for that day because he was so good, and I enjoyed watching his career. Another guy that has been knocking on the door quite a few times, and I do think we're going to get to him. I do think our number 2 player, and if you're paying attention, we know who 2 and 1 is, but I think number 2 has a shot. The senior committee, I think they're going to be the ones to look back and say, hey, this guy was really good for a long time. And anytime you're that good for that long and you have an MVP in your history and you've been to a Super Bowl and the league loves quarterbacks, I think we got a chance here for our number 2 player to make the Hall of Fame as well. We're going to remember him. We think highly of him and fondly of him. He's in the Bengals Ring of Honor. But I want the league to understand, and I want new fans to understand just how good our number 2 player was. Of course, I'm talking about 1981 MVP quarterback Ken Anderson. The former 3rd-round pick, 67th overall in the 1971 draft out of Augustana College, Kenny Anderson had a long 16-year career in Cincinnati with a slew of awards and records. appearing in 198 total games for Cincinnati. He's a legend, not just for what he did on the field in his long career, but also as a coach for the Bengals from 1993 until 2002.
Which is the NFL's top-rated quarterback. After his shaky start in Week 1 against Seattle, Anderson rebounded to complete over 62% of his passes for 3,750 yards and 29 touchdowns. He had the lowest interception rate in the National Football League and added a number of gutty runs that made him the Bengals' second leading ball carrier. While it's true that many stars have shown in Cincinnati, without Anderson, they would not have had near the glitter.
The only difference between me this year and last year, I think, is that I'm healthy. I think the second factor is I've got a lot of great people playing around me.
A great offensive line and an outstanding group of receivers.
Not only did Anderson win the 1981 NFL Most Valuable Player of the Year, he was the NFL Offensive Player of the Year and the NFL Comeback Player of the Year in 1981. He also won the NFL Man of the Year award in 1975.
I was the lucky one. I got to come to Cincinnati and Paul Brown, a stable franchise, and I always tell people it's big enough where it has everything you want, but small enough where you can get around. And a great place to grow up, and Cincinnati could not have been better to me. And be in the first class that's going up in the Ring of Honor, I think is something very special. But fun thing about it is the 81 Super Bowl team will also be there that night. And this will draw a little bit more focus back to the early days of the team when back in the 70s and 80s we were as good as any team in the league. And we've got a great tradition here, a winning tradition. It'll be nice to go back and think about some of those times as well.
Anderson was a 4-time Pro Bowler and 2-time All-Pro.
I definitely believe Ken Anderson belongs in the Hall of Fame. He was an NFL MVP, a 4-time Pro Bowler, 4-time NFL passing champion.
What a throw from Anderson.
And he played with consistency for 16 years.
Absolutely should be in the Hall of Fame, 100%. You could put his statistics up against 75% of the quarterbacks that are in the Hall of Fame, and he will have them beaten every particular category.
If you look at his 1974 and 1975 seasons,
Looks fired into the end zone. Touchdown.
they're some of the best seasons of all time. He was completing 62% of his passes at a time when the NFL average was 52%.
If I had a son who was right-handed and I wanted him to watch somebody throw the football, watch him just perform, watch his footwork and watch his arm, Kenny Anderson would be as good as any.
He's a 2-time NFL passing yards leader, a 3-time NFL completion percentage leader, a 4-time NFL passer rating leader, and when he set the record for a completion percentage of 70.6% in a season, that record stood for 25 years until broken by Drew Brees in 2009.
He was the first quarterback that really ran the West Coast offense that Bill Walsh took from Cincinnati and instilled out in San Francisco with his modifications.
Ken Anderson was a pioneer.
Anderson back to throw, looks, fires into the end zone, touchdown.
A finalist for the Pro Football Hall of Fame 3 times, Anderson is considered one of the best players to never make it.
Kenny right now is probably the epitome of the NFL quarterbacks. To run the kind of offense that we're running right now, you have to be able to read defenses almost flawlessly.
The Freezer Bowl in Cincinnati for the AFC title in 1981.
And who won the game?
Dan Fouts got in the Hall of Fame, and Ken Anderson beat him.
When Anderson retired, he was the leading passer in every single category in Bengals history. With his records and setting a new standard for accuracy, Ken Anderson was considered for a long time to be the most accurate quarterback to ever play.
Who do you have ahead of him? Kenny was the guy who didn't make mistakes. That guy was very, very accurate and efficient.
He was marvelous. He was wonderful. He was one of us. He was not separated from us like a lot of quarterbacks.
That guy was a baller.
Anderson finished his career 7th all-time in passing yards in NFL history. But he also set records for consecutive pass completions, completion percentage for a single game, completion percentage for a season, Super Bowl completion percentage, completions in a Super Bowl.
Research study on the best quarterback seasons of all time. Ken Anderson had 2 of the top 10 seasons, 1974 and 1975. In 74, he led the league in both completion rate and yards per attempt.
He had a +10 win-loss record.
And he led the NFL in passing yards twice and completions twice, and had the fewest interceptions per pass attempt 3 times.
He was running a Bill Walsh offense before anyone knew who Bill Walsh was.
He was, in a lot of ways, I think, a prototype for what Bill Walsh wanted at the position.
Bill and I spent a lot of time working together. Anytime you take a kid out of Augustana College, it's going to take a while for him to come into the National Football League. And we spent a lot of times on basics and looking at film.
He was one of these guys that if you could ever get a bead on him, you could get to him. But it was the 1-2 drop, boom, and he just dinked us all the time. We could never get to this guy.
He ranks 11th in NFL history for postseason passer rating at 93.5. Our greatest Bengals list uses Pro Football Reference's Hall of Fame monitor score, and Kenny Anderson's score ranks higher than several quarterbacks already in the Hall of Fame, including Troy Aikman, Sonny Jurgensen, Len Dawson, Bob Greasy, and others. And that was going through a tough AFC Central division at that time. Anderson went 41-34 against AFC Central competition, 8-8 against the Steelers, and that's the Steelers team with all the Hall of Famers and Terry Bradshaw at quarterback.
Of the real good quarterbacks in the 70s. That's too low for Ken Anderson. I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. There's a big push for it. He should get in there.
So 8-8 is pretty good, considering they won 9 division titles and Anderson's Bengals won 3. Anderson was a finalist for the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2023 by the senior committee, but missed out on being one of the final 3. So he's been close, and he's knocked on that door. And a lot of these clips you hear are from NFL Network's top 10 players not in the Hall of Fame from 2008, where Anderson ranked 8th out of the 10. Anderson was inducted in the inaugural class of the Bengals Ring of Honor with Anthony Munoz, Paul Brown, and Ken Riley, 3 other Hall of Famers. Kenny Anderson went 91-81 in regular season contests for the Bengals, completing 2,654 passes, 32,838 yards, and throwing for 197 touchdowns. But Anderson could move also. 397 rush attempts for 2,220 yards and 20 scores on the ground.
Now inducting the 1981 NFL MVP, Super Bowl 16 quarterback, number 14, Ken Anderson.
Today's episode of Boomer, Anderson, Atkins, Anderson. That leaves number 1, and we all know who that is. I think you can ask almost any football fan, and they would know. But let's recap our top 100 series until we get to our number 1, which is obviously Anthony Munoz, the former first-round pick out of USC in the 1980 draft, 3rd overall. Anthony Munoz played for the Bengals for 13 years through the 1992 season. 9 first-team All-Pros, 2 second-team All-Pro seasons, 11 Pro Bowls, the 1980s All-Decade Team, the NFL 75th Anniversary Team, the NFL 100th Anniversary Team, Pro Football Writers Association All-Rookie Team, Bengals Ring of Honor, 1991 NFL Man of the Year, an inaugural member of the Bengals Ring of Honor, and widely considered to be the best offensive lineman to ever play. And when the NFL did a top 100 list of the greatest players of all time, Munoz came in at number 12. Take it away.
Forrest Gregg lines up a defensive end. Forrest says, now this is what I want you to do, and this is the handwork, and the pro set, hoot. And Forrest takes one step, and Anthony shot the ground. And Forrest said, I think we're going to draft this kid as number 1. When Anthony Munoz was drafted, the newspapers said, this kid's only played 16 college football games. He can't stay healthy. What the hell are we doing drafting this kid?
Anthony Munoz quickly put to rest all concerns about his durability. In his 13 seasons, he missed only 3 games due to injury.
When he first showed up in Cincinnati, he looked like an extra in a Ben-Hur movie. Hair down to here, curly, real dark, mustache. Kind of the East LA look. I don't know, you show those stinking badges. One of those guys, you know. And I wish I'd been there the first time that Paul Brown had seen him.
Munoz was a 9-time All-Pro and was named to the 1980s All-Decade team.
Once he starts inside, you can start trying to finish the block.
The offensive line coach at the Bengals, Jim McNally, let Anthony, I think, come up with his own stance.
I don't think you need a coach. Huh?
He had kind of a wide stance with the foot way back, but he was athlete enough at his size that he could recover for anybody coming down the inside. He was perfect, absolutely perfect in the way he set up. He gave defensive ends no place to go. Man, he devastated defensive ends in this league. I mean, he put them on the ground. He put them off the line of scrimmage. He protected the court, everything. He's the first big guy that I've ever come across that ran distances to stay in condition at 6'5", 275 or 280. He'd run 10, 12 miles 2 or 3 times a week. Big guys didn't do that.
Munoz's athleticism proved a vital and versatile asset to Sam Wyche's up-tempo, no-huddle offense.
The worst thing about playing Anthony Munoz on any given Sunday is you're going to be out there against him for 40 or 50 plays. Well, with this new offense, now you're going to be out there against Anthony Munoz for 80 plays. He's going to beat your ass 80 times, not 40 times. They'd line him up at tight end and, 78 eligible. And he'd fake the down block and Boomer Esiason would find him in the end zone a lot.
Lob pass off in the corner of the end zone. There's the touchdown, Anthony Munoz.
It was fun, especially the first one. Sam Wyche's rookie year with the rookie quarterback, Boomer Esiason. I wasn't crazy about the situation.
The Bengals with a chance to tie it here with 7 seconds left to go.
It was 1st and goal. We had to score to take it in overtime, and I was basically the primary receiver, so it was either catch the football or walk home from Cleveland.
Boomer throws into the end zone to Anthony Munoz, touchdown.
In 1998, Munoz became the first Bengals player to be enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
He was so consistently proficient for his entire career. The day he retired, I didn't see any difference in the way he played offensive tackle, which is extraordinary. I mean, he was still just stuffing people at the line of scrimmage or driving them down. The number 1 draft choice that the Cincinnati Bengals had ever made was Anthony Munoz, the best choice to this point in their history, ever.
A big thank you to Paul Brown and his family for giving me a chance to play in the NFL. You talked about Hall of Fame, you talked Pro Bowl, that I was even drafted. That's the first thing I said, man, none of this would have happened if I hadn't gotten drafted. If Paul Brown and the Brown family hadn't drafted me, all that adversity I went through in college, all that rehab, all those hours in the weight room and running and to get myself ready for the Rose Bowl was worth it. It took one team, and it was the Bengals that took a chance and drafted me, and so I'm very thankful for that, and the fact that I'm going in with Paul Brown, I'm just thrilled.
And that's Anthony Munoz at number 1. I think everyone expected that, right? Of course, he's the greatest Bengal of all time, the best player to ever play in Cincinnati. Long career, awarded for everything you could be during his time in Cincinnati and with the Bengals, and still, again, has been involved with the team, very active with the team, and we see him in preseason calling games. And Anthony Munoz is considered, I believe they did a top 100 NFL players of all time, and he was number 18 when they did that list. Anthony Munoz is still considered to be the best offensive lineman of all time. So that's an easy one there. I think a lot of people are going to see that and say, yep, of course. The only probably top 5 here, and I'd like to know your comments about the top 5. Am I too high on, who is it? Is it Geno Atkins? Would you put him up there? In my opinion, Geno Atkins is the best defensive player that ever played in Cincinnati. And it was strengthened when I went back and watched a lot of these clips and cut them up again. And it was just incredible how often he created for so many other players on the defensive line, for the linebackers, right? So many of our favorite players from that team around him made this list. And I think he was the centerpiece. He was the guy that made that defense as good as it was. I mean, I think we ended up with 10 out of 11 players from the 2015 era from that defense on this list, and Geno Atkins being the highest one because he was that good. So if I, take a minute to defend that ranking here, why he's number 3 on this list, it's because of that. It's because he was that good, that great. And I think he will be their next, not senior committee Hall of Famer, because I think we'll get Kenny Anderson eventually. We've got Kenny Riley now. But I think Geno, Willie Anderson, 2 guys on this top 5, they'll have their shot at the Hall of Fame. And I think Geno's got the best shot of all of them. And anytime you make 8 Pro Bowls at defensive tackle, you make it. Anytime you make an all-decade team, you make it. So it would be weird if he didn't. And then maybe it's because he's so quiet. Maybe it's because his retirement just goes under the rug and, no one talked about it afterwards. But I believe Atkins, and then we're going to see from the last episode, Andrew Whitworth will have his chance as well. But to me, that's why Atkins is going to rank so high. And I think when we can properly celebrate him, bring him back, and maybe have him be ruler of the jungle and do those things, we can remember how great he was as a player. But easy. Atkins to me, Kenny Anderson, Anthony Munoz is the top 3. I'm very happy with this list. I'm glad you guys joined along for the entire process. It's been a long series. It's been fun. It's been a lot of work. I've loved the comments and all the support we've been getting below, whether that's on Twitter, on X, or below on YouTube here. And you guys seem to have enjoyed it, learned a lot about players. I have learned a lot about these guys that I didn't know about. And that's how I started the process. I was curious. And then I got to the point of, let's rank these guys. Let's find a way to sort them out and maybe help the Ring of Honor voting process, and maybe even Hall of Fame voting processes. Maybe we can send this to a few people and say, hey, you're overlooking Geno Atkins, you're overlooking Willie Anderson, or whoever it may be. And I wonder what the next series we should do. We were talking about it at lunch a couple of days ago. Maybe we should do the 10 greatest individual performances in a game of all time. And that could be a fun list. So if you got ideas, leave them in the comments. Let me know. Let me know where we went wrong on the rankings now that they're all out there. And I hope you enjoyed it. Until next episode where we can get back to the analysis. We got training camp going. We've got a lot to talk about. We're going to dive right back into all that, all the things you love as we get amped up for the 2024 Bengals season. I'm Joe Goodberry, and this has been Bengals on the Brain, presented by First Star Logistics. Until next time, Hooday.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realize self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.